Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Coconut Bob, and today we're taking a quick look at my turbo LED boards. This is the first circuit board that I've designed in KiCad. So today I just wanted to go through the steps of going from one of these bare boards to a fully populated and functional LED turbo board. Once we get it assembled, then we'll go through the steps of actually installing one into a color computer 2 or 3. So it's not going to be too complicated, but let's go. Okay, so quick notes on assembling the version 1 of my turbo LED board. First of all, these LED markings are clearly backwards. The cathode should go at the bottom on all three of those. So pretty much all of the resistor markings are wrong on the board. The 620 ohm resistor that's included actually goes down here, and I think it's labeled 390 on the board. That is just fake and false, and just totally ignore that number. The 330R, all three of these resistors were originally 330 ohms in order to get 20 milliamp LEDs lighting up. So the LEDs that I'm using are extremely bright, and I found that a 1K resistor works better. We're running about 2 milliamps, and they're still plenty bright. I could even go to 2K if I wanted to. So anyway, just wanted to clarify that again. With the version 1 of this board, your 620 ohm resistor goes here in R2, a 1K resistor for R5 and R4, and then here at R1 and C1 and R3 are not needed unless you're running a GIME-X and want that 3 megahertz turbo light. C2 there, 1 nanofarad, that is the only thing that's labeled correctly on the board. Well, the chips are labeled correctly, I guess, but alright, that's enough rambling for now. I'm going to finish soldering this up. Alright. Get the 3 resistors first. So these ICs, I don't use sockets on these for some reason. I think they just look better without them. What I like to do in that case is actually not solder them flush to the board, but actually stand them up. If you look at the legs here, there's a significant amount of lead sticking up out of the board. What I like to do, I have my little calibrated tool here that I got from sources unknown, just barely. Okay, so that will let me space these just perfectly. I've got just what I would call a perfect amount of lead sticking up out of the board here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll hold the board down to it, snug, Get a diagonal on both chips. And I can just pull this right out. Just pulls right out. There we go. So this also keeps the board, I mean, it still looks cool. The chips are up off of the board, which I guess would help with airflow or whatever. But in the event that you had to replace one of these chips, now it's super easy to go in with some flush cutters and cut the legs off. It's a lot easier with the chips raised up like that than it would be if they were sitting down flush. Also, if you cut the chips, the leads flush with the board, and it turns out that the chip is actually still good, you could still reuse that chip. Whereas if I had soldered them all flush to the board, that chip would become basically useless. Alright, so try not to stay on one area of a chip too long. Do maybe a couple of leads, rotate around. Circuit board vise. Still damn you. Go. I stuck my finger. All right. That's basically it. Just put on a connector for the LEDs, put on a power pin and a clock input, and we're done. So once you have your board assembled and you want to fit it into the case, I found that this little spot here next to the keyboard is a good spot. Normally in a CoCo 3 I would do it this way and up here because there's plenty of room. There's not this floppy drive in the way. But on this particular CoCo 3 and also on a CoCo 2, I turn the board around this way just for you have a wall here on a CoCo 2 and you can't go past that. So the first thing you see is that it just doesn't quite go down all the way in here. Almost. I wasn't really planning a mounting location on these, but it turns out that this can actually be used perfectly. But we need to put some little notches for the posts here, the keyboard posts. And to do that, I use the Dremel with just a little sanding drum. And I'm just gonna go, you can see I've already started here a little bit. I'm gonna put a little notch here and a little notch here so that it will go in between these posts and sit down flush on the base of the case. Not much at all, maybe just a millimeter, if even that much. This one isn't even. Okay. See how that sits. That, as you can see, drops down securely in there. It can't go back or forth. I'll put some double stick tape on the bottom. Okay, so I've got the power coming basically straight off of this capacitor. I had to lay this capacitor down for the clearance for the pepper board, and I've just got the 5 volts coming straight off of that going into the 5 volt lead. Got the clock lead here. That lead comes straight up the edge of the board here. I've got a little bit of aluminum tape holding that on. Just runs right along the edge of the board. And it solders onto R10. As you can see, this is a shielded cable. You want to use a shielded cable so that your clock line does not turn into an antenna. And there's a convenient ground point right there next to the gimme chip. Again, just run this down along the edge of the board. This is a Color Computer 3 configuration. The Color Computer 2 is a little different. Here you can see a Color Computer 2 with the turbo LED board installed, and I've got power directly across C6 down here, and the clock line connects directly across capacitor 60. So this side is ground and this side is the clock. Alright, so here you can see the basic concept. We've got 4 wires here. Each LED has its own 2-pin connector. Although they could very easily share a common ground. And this is kind of the general idea of how I like to mount them. But there's a problem. So in here, these LEDs don't stick out very much. But on a stock Color Computer 3 with this transformer installed, they're going to hit. Even if you bend those leads completely flat as you can lay them, the lid's not going to close all the way. So there's a couple things you can do about that. If you're doing your own LED wiring, the easiest would be to move the turbo LED up to here, or move the power LED over here in the turbo. Just keep them in the top row. The top row does not interfere with the transformer. All the rest of these will. So I have done this in the past where I had an entire set of all the colors that I can get, all mounted up here, perfectly bent flush. So the easiest thing to do was to relocate the LEDs to both be in the top row. If you're using a, where the f is this there? Then the other thing to do, which is also not difficult, is to just take out the transformer and you remove the bottom half of this steel cage, and then you put the transformer back, and you can keep this cage. I mean, you could take the cage off if you're willing to do that. It's not really needed, but it is not a bad idea to have that safety. Color computer 2s don't have this cage at all, and you've basically got live 110 volts just exposed under the lid. So this is not an issue on a color computer 2. You don't have the clearance issue, but you do have live voltage in there, so that's another little concern. If you're going into your color computer 2, make sure you unplug it before you start this. So those are the easy options. Take off the bottom half of the cage, or just use the two top square holes for your LEDs. Of course, I've converted to run off of DC, so I don't have that transformer, so that's why I kind of forgot about this being an issue for most color computers, at least color computer 3s, I should say. So what we're looking at here, basically what we've seen before, the clock line runs along the front edge of the board. This comes out and plugs in here. See, the turbo light went out when I unplugged that. The power line here is 5 volts. Basically you get that from this red power resistor here. I believe it's R19. And there's plenty of places to get ground right around there. So what I have been doing with these kits that I'm sending out is I'm including little pieces of this aluminum tape, and it's about a 1/2 inch strip, and I'll cut it into 3 pieces. Okay, so the 2 little pieces that I'm including can be used to hold the clock line to the edge of the board. You just want to be careful not to short anything out with that aluminum tape. The reason I'm using this aluminum tape is because it's very flexible and very strong adhesive. Once you have it stuck down, it won't just peel off accidentally like some cheap tapes would. Anyway, in addition to the 2 small pieces, there's a bigger piece, and that is to secure the wires in the lid. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. See if I can get this off of the backing. There we go. So I'm just going to kind of guide these in the general direction I want them to go. And again, the red and black wires here, on the newer stuff, I'm using like a 4-wire gray ribbon cable. So a little bit neater than this red and black stuff, but just kind of hold that wire down like so. That's fine. Just to give it a hint of where to lay. And then we just plug this in right here. And so the red wire will be closest to the wall here. It goes red, black, red, black. And if you have that third one, again, red, black. So that's all there is to that. Again, get this keyboard back in place. This is my homemade Mr. Dave custom keyboard here. So you can see that tape is pretty strong there. It's holding that lid up by the wires, and it's not pulling loose. That's why I like the aluminum tape. So there you have it. What we have here is a 64K color computer 2 with a blue power LED. I'm going to go ahead and hit the high-speed poke, which is poke 65495, 0. Enter. and we're gonna see that turbo light comes on. Go back to low speed, poke 65494, 0, and enter. Voila. So there you go. I hope you like it. If you have any questions or comments about this, let me know in the comments. If you want to get one of these for your color computer, works on a color computer 1, 2, or 3, and also supports the triple speed mode of the GIME-X. So shoot me an email, La Coco Strangiato, on the Gmail servers. You can also find me on the Color Computer Discord, and I do read the Color Computer mailing list, but I'm not super active there. Anyway, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching. Remember to CoCo every day.